all NHS do, and to see Bob and what those guys are achieving for those young people is more than admirable, and he has absolutely nothing to feel ashamed about for getting 0 out of 24 on the rugby league quiz.
No, he might do better today. You never know. I haven't devised a quiz yet where all the answers are Carl Ablett and Ryan Hall.
Yeah, he's not in charge of the NHS again this week, is he? So, or at least the Twitter account. He wasn't in charge of the whole NHS, was he?
No, I don't believe he was.
I suspect that's not a task that he would want.
Before we... So I don't interrupt you. Before we get to the next bit.
Yeah, go on.
At the end of last week's show, we talked about how people can get in touch with us now for our season review episode. That'll be coming up in about 3 to 4 weeks' time.
Yes.
But I thought I'd say it earlier on this week, in case people are here, and it's getting more and more pertinent. So, we're in the process of drawing up our shortlists for the SLP Team of the Year, which is the most important, and for the Sloppies, the SLP Annual Awards.
Yes.
So they will be released in grand final week, I would suspect. We need to have a conversation over the next week or so to firm that up. But they will be released around about the grand final time, and then you'll have about 2 weeks or so to vote on those. We also will be starting to accept your season reviews for your teams out there. So, like in previous seasons, grab your iPhone or your mobile, your whatever you've got that can record your voice. Do a couple of minutes telling us about the highs and lows of your team's season, the favourite players, the favourite moments, the not so great experiences, that sort of stuff, and just the general what it's been like following your club this year. We want one for every single club in Super League, so we might come knocking on your door if your clubs aren't represented. But we also are more than happy to get them from people who from beyond, Super League. We'll also, as always, accept the Andy Barden 20 seconds of Wigan, 20 seconds of the Welsh teams, and then a minute and a half or two of just him talking about the season, because he's, foundation listener. He gets special privileges.
One of the grand old men of Super League pod.
Or if anyone out there has got any ideas about something they want to do around reviewing their team's season or what have you, drop us a line, because we're open to ideas for what people want to send in, but we want recordings basically of you guys talking, because it's our favourite thing, in it, playing those back when we review our predictions and how many of them came off, and shake our head again at tipping Warrington to win anything.
I know. Jesus, when will we learn, Mark? When will we learn? Right, well, that is the feedback and shout outs taken care of. Let's take a look now at news from around the world of rugby league. Okay, so to this week's news then, and we'll start at Bellevue, where Wakefield Trinity have agreed a deal that will keep them at Bellevue. A proposal has been agreed that will see a redevelopment of the Bellevue site take place by 2020 and will allow the Super League club to remain at their long-held home next year. As part of the agreement, Wakefield will remain at Bellevue next season before leaving the ground as work takes place in 2019. At a meeting with the owners of Wakefield Trinity, Councillor Peter Box, CBE, put forward a proposition to build a brand new community stadium at Bellevue, along with a retail, residential and entertainment development. Club owner Michael Carter and Chris Brereton have agreed to the proposal and have confirmed the club will remain at Bellevue for the 2018 season, subject to the details being finalised. Wakefield Council has agreed to take a lease out on the site, which could result in renovation work starting in September 2018 and being finished ahead of the 2020 season, subject to planning approval.
Yeah, and we had an email from Brian Davies, which, when it comes to anything Wakefield related on the SLP,
finger on the pulse.
He's the member of SLP royalty who sits the highest in the highest order on these things. So he sent us an email, and we'll read it out.
Everyone's getting reach arounds this week, aren't they?
Stuff. Well,
apart from Rob,
it's reaching around himself at the moment. He's already drafted his 9 in a row tweets, isn't he, for future weeks.
Yeah,
Anyway,
freestyler.
Brian, our Wakefield friend, says it's hard to be too optimistic about any news on a new ground for Wakey, but the latest announcement does sound realistic and the best we've heard over the last 20 years. The council are right behind it, having been put in a corner over their incompetence with the Newmarket scheme. They released land for a massive new development near the M62 that could be partially built before the new stadium. Trouble was, they got the paperwork wrong, and so the developer built the first bit and then didn't build the stadium. The site is partially developed and there is a stalemate over further development at Newmarket. The new scheme will see the council buy the lease on Bellevue and borrow money against the lease to fund the building of a new ground on the current site in 2019. The surrounding land will also be developed with a hotel and apartments. Once the ground has been built, development at Newmarket can begin again, with payments to made to the council by the Newmarket developer. These payments funds will be used to pay off the council's loan, and once the loan is fully paid off, the council will transfer the lease of the ground to the Wakefield Stadium Community Trust, with Trinity as the primary tenants, so our games will always take priority over other uses of the stadium. The only outstanding issue is to get the right deal so that Wakey are able to earn income from the stadium all year round, and all parties seem to recognise that this needs to be resolved in Wakey's favour. So September 2018 we could be playing our last game at the old Bellevue before returning for the 2020 season and our unstoppable march towards total World Rugby League domination. Bring it on, Brian. Oh, alternatively, we could still be playing in that shithole for decades more. Brian.
There you go. Well, there's not a great deal more colour I can add to that, is there, really? It's tentatively very good news for Wakefield.
Yeah, I've seen, like, the sort of architect's sort of mock-up kind of idealised scheme rather than anything detail. And it does look... It looks
like someone's taking the top off the AJ Bell.
Relatively like that. I think there's so much they could do to do it even more simply than that scheme lays out and get it sorted. I mean, when I was there on Saturday, I was sort of me and Mongolian were sort of even coming up with like cost saving ideas for them. Like they could reuse these stanchions. They only repaired those at the start of last season and stuff like that. So
I would keep the porta cabin stack. Keep the integrity. Isn't that what modern architecture is about now? Kind of integrating the old with the new.
Yeah.
I'll keep the porta cabin.
I think the real old at Bellevue went a number of years ago. Unfortunately.
Yeah.
But yeah, it seems a realistic proposal, and I was wanting to hear what Brian had to say because I always look on these stories with some scepticism because of how many we've seen over the years, and because of things we've seen in other developments, like what's going on with Sheffield and how they are slipping down the pecking order of their new stadium and things like that. So it looks like there's a plan. It looks like people want to resolve the differences and the fallouts of the past, which is a very positive thing because if bullshit bureaucracy has been holding things up, then that's just of benefit to no one whatsoever. And the community, at least, which is a great rugby league community around the area. I mean, you only had to see how many kids were on the field in the hour and a half before kick-off on Saturday to realise that. So, I'm glad that it looks like we're moving forward.
I agree too. Okay, the 2017 Kingston Press Championship and League One Awards Night was held earlier this week, Mark, and the winners were announced amid great fanfare. I'll run through them now for you. We can talk about any that stand out as we go along. Championship Player of the Year was Sean Lunt of Hull Kingston Rovers. Not a massive surprise. He's had a phenomenal year for the Robins, hasn't he?
It was what we expected from the nominations. He has been, a sort of guiding force, hasn't he, for a side that have... Sometimes Ellis has come under question, despite his great goal-kicking run, and who partnered him was always kind of not quite consistent. So obviously having a hooker who is so experienced and so determined to the cause, that's kind of earned him this in a way.
That's it. Championship Young Player of the Year was James Bentley, the young Bradford Bulls second rower who's now on his way to St Helens.
Will he be back on loan at Bradford next year?
That's kind of what people are hoping for, but there's been nothing confirmed. I don't think it would necessarily do him any good playing in League One, to be perfectly honest. I think he needs to be playing at a high level if he does go out on loan anywhere. So that remains to be seen. He's a very, very talented youngster.
I assume it's been greeted warmly by Bradford Bulls fans that this award went to him.
Of course, yes. Yeah, he's come through the system there. He's a very, very talented player. It's just a shame that what happens at Bradford seems to be that we produce these very talented players, and because of the nature of our position in terms of the organisational running or lack thereof, we lose them. So good luck to him, because he's a very dedicated young man. Championship Coach of the Year, Andrew Henderson of the London Broncos. I think that's fair.
Of course.
You could make an argument for Tim Sheens, who was also nominated, but I think given what he's achieved at London and the resources with which he's done it, and the development that's gone on at London over the years since the relegation, he's done very well.
Yeah, you feel like some of the players they brought in that they expected to offer lots aren't necessarily the players that have offered the most. And I think some of those players have been announced just being leaving. I don't think we got that in the news round, but I think people like Patel and Offerdall and people like that are out the door.
Yeah, Matt Garth.
And he's, I think stability, progress, and he's working more than just his coaching. But everyone's enjoyed the way London have played, aside from the first month of the season when they were a little bit scratchy and the moves weren't quite gelling, they weren't quite putting things together. From that point on, I think everyone who's seen London play has enjoyed the spirit that they've played the game in, if not always the outcomes that they've achieved.
Definitely. Okay, League One Player of the Year was Craig Hall of the Toronto Wolfpack. Well, we expected as much, didn't we, given the fact that he scored a few points.
When you score 400 points or something ridiculous, he scored a mental amount of points, completely way higher, even
considering the margins of victory, his contribution
still
has been impressive, hasn't it?
Yeah,
absolutely. Young Player of the Year was Lewis Young, ironically enough, from the Newcastle Thunder. League One Coach of the Year was someone who's also quite young, Carl Forster of Whitehaven.
Yeah, I think this is one that probably brought up the most debate, because Barrow fans thought it should be their coach. Is it Paul Crary?
Yeah.
But I think, and one of their arguments around it was that he had a dual reg system that supplemented him. But this is a coach dealing with a side that had been relegated and a side he'd only just taken over, a side that needed to be completely rebuilt. Yes, it might have had some sort of supplements along the way from... What's going on with your TV?
Oh, the Fire Stick's on and it's just doing the screensaver, mate.
Right, okay. Anyway...
Nothing bad's happening, it's just doing them pictures for the viewer what's upset Marks.
No, it's quite distracting because they're such glorious looking pictures, aren't they? That's the thing.
Would you want to swap places? Are you back to it?
No, we're okay.
Be okay.
We're okay. So I think he's done a great job with, probably slightly less resources, certainly less stability going into the start of the season.
Yeah,
and it's not always easy bringing in dual reg players and getting them to work. And at his age, playing a central role for the side as well as coaching them, I just think totally deserved.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm on board with that as an award, to be honest with you. Championship Club of the Year were Hull Kingston Rovers. Well, that's hardly surprising given the fact that they got themselves back up into Super League at the first attempt. League One Club of the Year was the Toronto Wolfpack. See above. Championship Project of the Year, though, Featherstone Rovers.
Yeah, I don't really know much about the Project of the Year awards. If I'm completely honest, I don't fully understand what goes into them. So just well done to Featherstone and York, who got the League One award for Project of the Year, because obviously they're working well in the communities. If this is the case, you would assume. Yeah,
and Foundation of the Year went to Newcastle Thunder.
Well, there's good growth, isn't there, in the North East in terms of what they're doing, matching it up to the Magic Weekend. Some of the sides now sort of becoming a bit more well known, and they've developed some of their own players and that sort of thing. So they're obviously doing good stuff, and that's been recognised.
That's it. And Supporters Direct Community Champion was a chap called Ray Abbey.
Yeah, well done to Ray.
Bravo. Okay, Castleford backs Luke Gale and Zach Hardacre will go up against Hull FC standoff Albert Kelly for the 2017 Steve Prescott Man of Steel Award. The England halfback Gale is 29 and the 2015 winner Hardacre is 25. Both helped the Tigers to claim the League Leaders' Shield this season, whilst Kelly, who's 26, was a Challenge Cup winner last month as Hull retained the trophy at Wembley against Wigan. Not really the most surprising set of nominations.
I would have not been shocked if it was all Castleford. I think it could have been. I'm slightly disappointed not to see Grant Millington's name in that list, but you can't really knock the contributions of any of the players that are on there, can you? So they've all had great seasons, and Luke Gale deserves to get his award when it's handed to him in a week or so's time.
Yeah, I suspect it would be Luke Gale as well. He would get my vote if